Hi everybody. Talking today, I was had the tractor out, took my grader blade off. Really only had the tractor out about twice this winter. It's like the first week of April now. Had the tractor out, like I said, about twice. I needed to move some snow with it. The rest of the time it was just inch or so, and it melted off like, the next day or two, and I didn't bother with it. So pretty mild winter temperature wise and snow wise. When I did have it out plowing snow, she did just fine. One time she was a little cantankerous on starting, but I haven't ran it for a couple months, and it seemed like you got to fire her up once a month or so to keep her happy. But I was moving junk around my barn, and I had this old plow. I don't remember exactly when I got it. It was one of those things I probably didn't really even want it. It just seemed like the opportunity was there, and the price was decent, so I picked it up. It's a little worse for the wear. It needs a little love and attention, but I may use it, may not, but I'm kind of glad I got it when I did, because the price of these things, anything really for a little tractor here in the last year or so, has really shot up. Don't really know why, but I guess maybe the China thing. But the mower that I bought when I bought the tractor is, gosh, 7 years ago or better. Those things right now are about double the price of what I paid for them, and that seems like a lot. I bought mine and tax and the shipping, the semi to bring it up here. Like I say, it costs about half of what one costs now, and it's the same mower, at least I think it is. But that's the way she goes, I guess. I'm glad I got it when I did it. As far as the honey wagon, it did fit in the barn, and I used it some this fall. I hauled some manure, and actually the tractor did really good with it. I was surprised. The patches on the honey wagon held up real good too. I got about 5-6 acres I wanted to add to spread on, and it seemed to work out okay. But getting back to the subject at hand, this last summer, I believe, a fella through a mutual friend, he bought an 8N, and he got some implements with it. He had a little 2-bottom 12-inch plow, and this plow is a 14 AO28 was what they call it. These were made for a long time, and this is an older version of the 14 AO28. But he was having trouble with his plow. He wanted to plow a lot and have a garden, and he wanted to turn it over that summer, and the next spring start his garden. And he was having fits with it. It wouldn't seem like it was working right, and the mutual friend asked if I would be willing to go over and help him with it, and I said sure. I had a day off, and I went over there, and the problem was, and I'll do some measuring with mine, this is a 14-inch plow with 14-inch bottoms. So if my tape measure will cooperate, and it won't. It's old, excuse me. There's 14 inches. You can see that between the back bottom and the front bottom. And his problem was, his plow was not set up right on his tractor. And right now mine is doing about 15.5 inches. His was doing about 17, and it was throwing up an uneven amount. I mean, it looked real low, looked low, then high, then low, then high, and if you can picture what I'm talking about. And really there's a few ways you can adjust that. The front bottom has to throw the same amount of earth as the back bottom to make it look uniform when you're done. And granted, when you're doing sod, it's never going to look quite right because sod does not throw over well. It's clumpy, it's lumpy, it's not going to break apart, the roots will hold it together. But the year after that and year after that, it should look more and more like a regular plowed field that, you know, it breaks apart and throws over. But the one thing, at least on mine, that I found, if you take the center of the back of your tractor and you can use the where the top link goes in the middle of that, or you can use the PTO shaft, which I use. I have a hitch on mine so I can use the drawbar when it's straight out, and measure from the PTO to the inside of your tire, the inside of your tire, not the outside. And on mine it's just about 21.5 inches. Well, that gives me 14 inches from the furrow to my first bottom, and it also gives me about 7.5 inches, so it puts it kind of right in the middle between the first and second bottom. And really you want your PTO, the center of your tractor I should say, not the PTO, almost in the dead center between the first and second bottom. If you have it there, it's going to pull pretty straight behind your tractor, and that makes it that much easier for your tractor to pull it along. If it's off to one side or the other, or if it's pulling an uneven amount, that makes it hard. And what we ended up doing is on his 8N, we had to swap leave his centers in his wheels, but swap the wheels from one side to the other and put them in a different spot on the rim. And that brought his wheel in, gosh, what, 3 inches? It put him more in where he needed to be as far as measurement on his first bottom. Then his plow worked a whole lot better. He was a lot happier with it. And I'm going to show you on my tractor. I have these new rims I bought. And there's 6 connectors on the rims that the centers mount to. I don't know if you'll be able to see that great, but I have them mounted on the center portion of the where they can attach to, put it that way, and the bolt goes through this way. And I could also, if I wanted to, change this and put the center, attach it on the outside here, and run the bolt through the same way or the other way. It doesn't, you know, matter too doggone much. But these are about 2 inches, a little like 2 1/4 wide. If I were to do that, that would set my wheels out about 2 more inches on both sides. And not right now I'm at 72 inches. If I did that, my wheelbase from the width of the tractor would be 76 inches. And I'm happy where they are now, so I don't want to do that. Now that is with these on the right side of the rim, as I would call it. But if I wanted to make the wheelbase narrower, what I could do is leave my centers like they are, but take this wheel and this rim and put it over here. Swap these wheels like I did with him. That would put those on the outside of the rim. And if I mounted this to that, I would take up another 2 inches, and that would put me at from 72 to 68 inches wide. And if I took that and mounted it on the very extreme outside, I would go from 68 to 64. And that's the way I can change the wheelbase with my the rims I have anyhow. I could go 64, 68, 72, or 76. Right now I'm at 72, and that's where I want them to be. It works with this plow and it works with my mower. Excuse me. And that's how it works. So I am going to put a link to a pamphlet or a book that they have that explains a little more about the plow. When the tractor is sitting level, this plow is going to look like it's sitting crooked. And if you notice on this, where the connectors are, hookups, it goes level and then it drops down and then goes over on the furrow side. And that's for a reason. On this side it goes level up. It's the opposite. And that is so when the tractor is sitting kind of like that, I guess would be the way it would look in the furrow. And I usually would try to plow like 6 inches deep. This wheel is going to be sitting 6 inches lower than that wheel. That helps level out your plow. You want your plow to be sitting level when your wheel's in the furrow and you have your depth. You want your plow to be sitting level from side to side and from front to back. If it's not, you adjust your height to level it with your adjustable arm there. Crank it and either extend the linkage or retract the linkage. Same on your top link as far as the back being level with the front. You adjust the back more than you adjust the front, but you use your top link to do that with. It's very important to be level both ways, and you also that your front bottom is roughly throwing the same amount of earth as the back bottom. That's pretty important as far as what the finish looks like. It'll help to keep your ground uniform and level, which is if you're going to like garden or discs, things like that, it makes less work if everything comes out level with the plow. Now the different parts of the plow, at least on this plow, and it's a really old plow, so don't compare it to the newer ones. They really don't use moldboard plows anymore. But what you have here is called the shank. Attached at the bottom of the shank is what we call a frog. It is just a piece that everything bolts to. And on this side is what they call a landslide. It goes along the inside of the ground, inside the furrow, and basically keeps the plow from going this way. Come around the other side. The part that does the cutting horizontally is called the plow shear. What throws the dirt over and lays it on its side is called the moldboard. Now this is an older plow. The moldboard is one big long continuous piece. On some of the later versions they had a narrow piece right here, the bolted end. They called it a shin. And the reason for that was it's a lot cheaper to replace a shin than it is the moldboard. And on later versions too, they had something that mounted up on top that was a sharper angle. It actually stuck out like this. It was called a throw board. And that just took the residue and the stuff on top and helped toss it in front of what was being thrown here so it would get more buried. And that's that. The disc blades in front were called coulters, and they served a couple purposes. These are actually set just a tad bit too low. It should be about a ½ inch above your shear. And I'm going to have to get these adjusted. I let a fellow borrow this and he kind of whacked it up, but we'll get into that some other day. These actually cut the residue in front of your moldboard here, and it also helps cut the ground so it makes a better slice when it throws this. If you didn't have these here and you had corn stalks or foxtail or weeds, anything laying on the ground, it would hit and just wrap around this. This isn't sharp, really, and it doesn't cut things. It just kind of breaks it. This actually cuts. And my one in the front isn't an original, but I bought this thing to be functional, not practical. You know, it's not a keepsake. But I'm going to put a link to the pamphlet. If you need to also adjust, you can loosen these up. Bolts, they're U-bolts on this. And you can actually roll this one way or the other. And this will make it slide more this way or that way when you pull it through the ground. And you can more fine-tune the amount of earth between your furrow and what your front and bottom is throwing. I would rather keep mine straight up and down than to change it. But like I said, you can read the pamphlet and kind of decide for yourself. And you know, that's the basics of it. On the 14 bottom, or 14-inch plow, I believe, you can't add a third bottom to it. There's a brace that comes out and a kit that it bolts in here, and you have a third bottom out here. Now this wheel on the back is spring loaded. It actually just kind of a heavy disc type of thing. It rides up against the furrow. It doesn't really do anything as far as depth or anything. It just keeps the back of the plow from wanting to work. The plow naturally wants to pull this way, and this rides against the ground, and it's at an angle. It helps push the plow and counter that resistance, I guess you'd say. I haven't used this plow much. It's a nice job. When I retire, whenever that day does happen, I plan on having a big garden again. We used to have one when my kids were small, and I'd like to have one again. But as far as, you know, throwing sod, and the first couple of years you till up that ground, it is murder if all you have is the tiller. And this plow works great for that. You just have to be careful you don't hit rocks or roots or anything like that. And really, once you get the sod thrown over and the dirt side is up, you can run your tiller over it, and it is a whole lot easier, believe me. And that's what this thing is for. And I will show you one more thing before I go. I have my old rims and tires over here. They don't make these type of rims, at least the old type I'm going to show you here, anymore. But this was the old, they were a mixed match pair too. My rims and centers didn't match up. But this is the rim that failed on me. It was just rusted completely beyond help. But on these here, on the other side, are wedges. And you would take those loose, and then you take the weight off the tractor, and then you would spin the center or spin the wheel on the center, depending on how you want to do it. And this is it's not square, it's more like a corkscrew, and this would feed itself like into this notch here and take the center more to this side of it and extend the wheelbase. And that's how this center worked on this rim. Like I said, they don't make these rims anymore. They're pretty cool though. This is a more modern version of the same thing. It's what I used to know as a speed rim. You take the notches loose, and like I say, take a little pressure off the wheel and turn the rim, and this would slide along that rail. And then they were holes in them, and you put those wedges stops back in there, and you could adjust your wheelbase in and out that way. These are a whole lot easier to work with than these. And as you can see, my centers were all the way out, so my wheelbase was all the way in. Wheelbase used to be like 68 inches on this with those all the way in. And I wanted something a little wider. for in the side ditches and stuff that I mow. That narrow wheelbase made the tractor tip an awful lot. Make me kind of nervous at times, but just a little bit of 4 inches that I've added makes a great deal of difference. And it has better traction with the tread on too. Didn't want to slide as much. But this is my old 2-bottom plow. It's a 14-inch plow. Like I said, it's not much. The landslide on the front bottom is broke. The edge of my moldboard on the front bottom is chipped. Now if I'd had a shin on this, all I'd have to do is just take that shin off and replace the shin. As it is now, if I wanted to fix this, I'll have to replace the whole moldboard. That's more expensive. That's why they went to the shins. But I bought the thing, it was this way. It's, I didn't do it. I don't know what the fellow before me whacked into, but I keep a little oil on it to keep the rust down. A lot of times people would put like a grease on them, and some people paint them. The problem with painting them is if you go to use it with the paint on there, it doesn't want to let the dirt slide as well. The oil and the grease wipes off real easy. The paint doesn't. It takes a while for it to wear off. And that's the one thing that worked with the John Deere plow back in the prairie back in the 1800s. He made his plow bottom out of metal instead of wood. The wood would catch on the dirt, and the dirt would not flow freely. Made it a lot harder to pull for the horses. The metal one scoured itself, as they call it, so it would, as the dirt went along, it kept the plow clean, which made it slick, and the dirt would roll and throw over a lot easier. That's why John Deere got his patent for his plow, which made him an awful lot of money. But that was the difference between his plow and the others, is that the plow scoured itself, as they say. Well, that's enough talking. I hope you understood what I was trying to say, basically, about this. I'm going to put this back in the corner of the barn where it belongs. And hopefully everybody will have a good day. Stay safe with this virus thing that's going around, and hopefully everyone will be doing okay here. But you folks take care and have a good day.